I would call this meeting to order at 5:01 p.m. We do have a properly posted agenda, and we do have a quorum. At this time, we are breaking to go into closed session at 5:01. Okay. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including central office administrator, superintendent, or board member, or to hear a complaint or charge against an officer or employee. Okay, we are now in closed session.
trash can under you, Keith?
Nope. Oh, yeah, over here. Okay, we're back in open session at 6 p.m. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a properly posted agenda. We do have a quorum. First order of business is number 4, the invocation. Matt, if you would lead us in the invocation, please.
Will you stand with me? Let's pray. Father God, tonight we come to you with grateful hearts and thankful hearts for the new beginnings that you have provided us here at Decatur Independent School District. We pray, Father, that you would be with new families and new neighbors and new teachers and administrators who have come to join us here. But Father, tonight our hearts are heavy for individuals and families in our community who have experienced great loss. And we pray specifically that you would be with the Hernandez and Perez families tonight. We pray that you would wrap your arms around them, help us to know how to support them, God, and be the provider that they need in these days. God, thank you for the opportunity to be together tonight. We pray that you would guide and direct each decision that we make, and we pray all these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Number 5, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, number 6, public hearing regarding the 2024-2025 budget and tax rate. Let me pull that up real quick. Pull up. Here we go. Put on my glasses. It's still small. Okay. The TEA requires that each school district hold a public meeting to discuss the proposed tax rate and budget before adoption of the budget and tax rate. A notice of public meeting to discuss the budget and prepare a tax rate must be published at least 10 days, but not more than 30 days before the date of the hearing, and must comply with TEC Section 44.004. The notice was published in the Wise County Messenger on August 8th, 2024.
We've got a PowerPoint tonight to go over, just,
Mic isn't on.
oh,
Yep.
Oh, it is? So sorry.
okay. We'll start out with what the assumptions for the budget that we used this year in order to calculate the revenue, so we would know what our expenditures could be. For 24-25, we used 3,815 students at 95% average daily attendance. So that means that revenue is calculated on 3624 for this year. And then with the weights of all the weights that we do for all the additional funding, that would be 5,147. Special ed FTEs would be 166, that went up about 23 students. CTE, we went up about 20 students to 330. Compensatory, we kept that, remain that the same at 1,774. Those applications aren't due until mid-September for the calculation at snapshot date, which is the last in October. You'll look at the freeze adjusted taxable value. We are down about 86 million from where we were last year. The frozen property value went up 51. So that's kind of, if as frozen goes up, the freeze adjusted would go down. And then the frozen levy went down about 1.5 million, and that's due to the homestead exemption went from 40 to 100. So the levy that we collect on the frozen went down. I put in here the historical average daily attendance from 9-10. As you can see, we've steadily going up, and from 22 to 23, 23 to 24, we were almost exactly the same. We were within one student difference between those 2 years. And then this year, we're seeing the trend to go back up, hopefully. Property values, I put this slide in here just to show. So the green that's in the middle is our oil and gas. And if you'll look, back in 17-18, it was at 260 million. Then in 18-19, it was up dramatically, doubled to almost doubled to 403 million. Continued to go up in 19-20 and to 449 million. And then 20-21, it cut in half, went down to 240, and then we climbed back up again till we are now. Last year it was 749, and this year it's at 361, so it's been cut in half again. So, I mean, that's kind of been the trend. You know, it'll continue to go up, and then it'll readjust and go back down. But fortunately for our district, if you'll notice the big blue line at the bottom, that would be your residential housing. And that has steadily gone up. So therefore, we've been able to weather the fluctuation in the oil and gas by the steady increase in residential property. So, and industry, which is the small little line, blue line at the top, that still kind of remains pretty steady throughout the years. This is how the tax rate analysis we've all seen. This year, the maximum compressed rate remained the same at 0.6692, and we also kept the INS rate the same again this year at 0.2337. With the taxable value of the $3.9 billion, then you take out the frozen of the 381, that gets you the value that you're going to levy or calculate the revenue on, which is about $3.5 billion. The frozen levy there of the $1.3 million, and then per penny effort, this is for every penny that you levy, you're going to get $368,000. So that's kind of a number that some people like to know, so you know how much all your pennies are worth. Then you have there the split out between M&O and INS. Your M&O is about 74% of your tax collections. INS are sitting at 26%. And when you do all the calculations, we assume the budget is on 98% collection for the year. So that gets us to $24.3 million in M&O taxes, $8.5 million for INS. And then you have there the bond payments, and then again, we have in this budget to defease debt again, like we did this year, in order to save interest costs in future years. And then when you put all the general fund revenue in from all the calculations and into the state formula template, this year, you'll see the breakdown there. We did lower tuition and fees by 10 because it's just in district pre-K for this year. And then your property value, your property taxes went down 1.7 million. State revenue actually went up 670. And then the SHARS revenue went down $250,000. We all know that that is from the appeal that we're all still in with the SHARS individuals. And then we left the impact aid, that is the money that we get for the grasslands, having that land in our district. So overall, our revenue will be 38.1 million, and then, which is a decrease of 1.3 million from last year.
Just say that is.
The next slide is the general fund by function. We went over all of this in the budget workshops, but at the end of the day, the general fund expenditures will be $39.8 million, which is down about 1.1 million from last year. And then here are some of the highlights for the general fund. The teacher starting salary for Decatur will be $55,850. Each teacher will get a $1,250 pay increase, and then 2% for all the other midpoints. And then we've been able to maintain the medical insurance contribution of $407 a month. We did reduce this budget by 22 positions from last year. Region 11's service contract increased, and then there was an increase in the property and casualty insurance due to the replacement cost increasing for our buildings. And then we also reduced, if you'll remember, we reduced all of the service contracts, supplies, and operating expenses by 10%. So that's in this. And then we put on hold all capital outlays for this coming year. And then we had to add the 2 athletic trainers from Wise Health System because we took those on in-house. And then the Wise County Appraisal District fee was reduced, but it's reduced because our tax rate reduced, and it's based on the prorated share of your tax rate. And then here's just a summary of what we just had gone over to kind of just show in high level that, you know, revenue went from 39.5 million to 38.1. Expenditures went from 41 million to 39.8. Which it made overall, last year we had a projected loss of 1.5 million, and this year our projected loss is 1.6 million. Food service summary, you'll see there, the food service revenue did decrease a budget this year of $6,500. That's basically due to the reduction in the number of students, but then your federal rates increased, so it's kind of was a little bit of a balancing act there. And then your expenditures increased $483,000, but that is the TDA approved excess cash resource plan. So that's why we're required to spend down fund balance. And so that was their approved plan. And then on debt service, you'll see that we have the local revenue of 8.5 million. Then you have state revenue of 273. That's the revenue for the hold harmless for the increase in the exemption. We have expenditures, bond payments of the 8.8 million. So it does show a little bit of a projected loss of 7,880, but I feel certain more tax collections will probably come in higher, and so it technically overall won't be a loss. And we will reduce down our debt by about 3.3 million more dollars. So this year, that saved the district $761,000 when we paid down the debt. And then this is just your official budget overall. So your official total budget for all three funds, if I can read that, is 49.3 million. Expenditures are 41.7, which cumulative with the food service deficit budget there, it's 2.1 million. But that is intentional to pay down pay down fund balance in food service. And then for the school first rating, we have to just show that we actually discuss the impact with the board on the state and local and federal funding. We've had 3 workshops, and all 3 workshops we've discussed what's going on with the legislature, what impacts us down there, the interim charges that they've been discussing. And then where do we go from here? We're going to continue to scrub the budget for potential savings throughout the year. We're also going to really emphasize student attendance to meet the projection, if not exceed the projection. Hopefully we're shooting for 96%, even though we've budgeted on 95. And then with the new legislative session starting in January of 25, the district's going to establish legislative priorities for the funding year for 25-26. And then we will continue, once the legislature gets in session, then we'll continue to monitor the bills throughout the year, how they affect us going forward. Any questions?
How much did we go over budget in our expenses this past school year? Do we have a final number in that?
We don't, August isn't over yet,
Right, okay.
so we don't have that number yet.
Do we have like a guesstimate?
We have anticipated that we aren't over budget in any, no,
The proposed budget that we adopted last year?
not expenditure-wise. Now, are you wanting just at
General
year-end?
fund.
Are you wanting at year-end whether we will put money into fund balance or how much we're gonna decrease fund balance?
Right, yes.
So you had budgeted 1.5 million, then that we decrease in the student enrollment, which we were projecting about 2.7 million reduction in fund balance. I'm not expecting that to be anywhere near that. But expenditure-wise, we aren't over budget in any category, no.
Clarify for me, so online that we published the budget, the actual says that our surplus has been reduced by $2,225,000. You're saying it's not going to be that much?
I don't anticipate it being that much.
That's about a $700,000 discrepancy between the two. So what are you anticipating?
Well, the accrual was different, and then we have some open BOs. Everybody hasn't spent their budget, so.
Half that? It's $750,000 difference. I just need to kind of get my arms wrapped around what our deficit's going to be, because we're getting into our 3 months of operating expenditures, right?
Well, it's based on the salary accrual is less this year because we reduced by 22 positions. And so the majority of it is going to be in salaries. You had less days accrued than what we accrued last year. And then also your accrual will be less this year because of, we don't accrue as many days.
All right, just want to make sure that I'm explaining or get my point across. What we're approving tonight, but we got the data, and the board got the data, it was 1.5 million in the general fund deficit last year. But online, it's 2.2. So somewhere between those two is going to be reality, I guess. It's not going to be less than 1.5.
I don't know where you're seeing online.
So
You posted online to the public the budget, that's required?
This past school year's budget was built on a anticipated larger student enrollment than actually occurred. So it was thought that there would be as much as a $2.8 million hit to fund balance. So as this year is coming to a close, Mrs. Watson is looking at that and believing that it would not be that as much as that 2.8. Now, moving into of course, and all that will be finalized when the year closes at the end of August. And then in this coming year's budget, we have worked diligently to cut that anticipated budget deficit of the 2.8 in half, and we're looking at about a 1.6 use of fund balance in order to do the things that are in this year's budget. And of course, I know that as we held our budget workshops, we shared those. So does that clarify perhaps a bit
So
of your
you've
question?
done budget amendments all throughout the year to decrease, and that budget that you're seeing on there is the amended budget that you have.
Okay, well, all I did,
Put.
I aggregated the data from online that we're required to give the public. It says actual, one line item, and it says proposed. It looks like
Yeah. But that's not actual as of the end of August. That's the actual amended budget as of. So all of the budget amendments that you've done all year long to decrease the budget
Right.
for the UIL activities, for all of the cybersecurity things, that is where that number's coming from.
No, I understand that. I'm not really trying to get in the weeds about why. I'm just trying to find 1.5 versus 2.2. Somewhere in the middle is going to be the reality.
Well, in your budget book, you have in there the analysis of the general fund that shows you every single budget amendment that gets you to that 2.2.
So it is going to be 2.2.
Well, that's it. That's assuming, Scott, that everybody spends every single one of their line items. Not everybody.
I know, I'm just trying to get, I'm just for me, I need a guesstimate because we're looking at, with what you're giving us, this time next year, we're going to have 7.4 in our general fund. And it looks like we're roughly 3.3 per month operating. And we've been talking about wanting 3 months. Obviously, we're going to have less than that. And if this is 1.5 versus 2.2, that's $700,000 difference. That changes next year's estimates by a lot. And so real fast, we're going to be in right at 2 months operating, and one more year will be less than 2 months. So that it is a concern to me to try to get a better understanding. As if we had plenty of fund balance, I really wouldn't care, but we don't. And so now I really need to get in the weeds to understand, do we have enough cuts? Do we need to do more cuts before we have to really do the big cuts? I would rather start doing bigger chunks now than wait till we have to do a RIF.
Would you go back to the previous slide? Let's just look at that again. Okay, so, we know based on student enrollment what we can expect in revenue, and all of those are accurate that you see there for this projected next year's budget. And we know that this next year's budget would rely on about 1.6 from fund balance to make that budget. And we are, along with 80+% districts in the state in the same boat. So this is where we are. And we hope to see legislative action that provides support and takes us out of the position that so many of us are in now. So the final closure of this previous 23-24 school year's anticipated, because again, it was budgeted on a certain number of students with the idea that there might be a 1.2, is that what it is? A 1.5 use of fund balance. When the enrollment wasn't what it was, then that thought, well, that would become closer to the 2.8. Now that's not going to be as much as we thought it would be. So that will be less, given how we've closed up the year, and how your district closed up the year in 23-24. The future, looking in this year's budget, we know what we can expect, and we know that fund balance use would be no more than the 1.6, and probably will be less as well, because no district expends every penny of its budget every year.
What was the proposed deficit last year for the current academic for?
1.5, 1.5, but then we've done budget amendments all throughout the year.
And that's what's getting us to 2.8.
Yes.
For 3-4.
for 3-4.
Okay,
And
so.
you have that analysis.
So what I'm seeing here is an optimistic estimate for fund balance of 7.4 based off of the 1.6 original budget. But the reality is that it's larger than that. So this $7.4 million fund balance is going to be less than that by anywhere between $200,000 to $700,000, correct? Because we're seeing, what you provided us is off of the original general fund versus the proposed fund, not the revised budget, not the actual.
Are you talking about the 7.4 there on estimated fund balance of 25?
Exactly.
Well, that's estimated of 25. A lot of things can happen between now and August of 25. I mean, we amend the budget all year long, every year.
No, I know, but our trend, I went back to 21, I believe. The trend has been, we've been over, but we've had a deficit budget every year, roughly 1.4, 1.6, 1.7. The trend will, right now, this year, is that we went over that. So that 7.4 is optimistic. This time next year, we'll probably have less than 7.4 in the general fund, which is going to be right at a little bit more than 2 months worth of operating.
I wouldn't think that you would have less than 7.4 next year. I think, that means you would assume that there's, at every single line item, that you would add nothing, that everybody would spend every single one of their functional expenditures, and that just doesn't happen. Not everyone eliminates all of, I mean, there's always some that's left over.
Okay, well, even at your estimate, 7.4, we're roughly 3.3 per month, correct? So that's 6.6 for 2 months. We're still 2.5 months of operating then?
That's what we've been talking about all along in the
No,
last
I
3 budget
understand.
workshops.
I understand that we've been discussing this all along. What I'm also needing is more cuts. So that's what I'm discussing now, is
Oh.
because we are gonna be,
Well,
I
that's-
just want the reality for the board that we discussed that this time next year, 2.5 months worth of operating.
All right, if we need to make more cuts in the future, then we will look at it at that time. That we'll do budget amendments if we need to stay above that. So, yeah, I mean, again, there's just so many unknowns that we don't know for the future. And when we get to those points, then, yeah, well, if we have to make tough cuts in other areas, we'll certainly look at those.
I just want to recap for the new board. The old board requested to cut the 1.5 by 750,000, but we actually went up. We didn't cut it all, and we actually increased. So I just think it's important to note trends, because the odds are we will continue this trend. We haven't seen it change yet.
Well, I do want to reiterate the, with the enrollment not meeting the projected enrollment, that 1.5 looked like it could possibly be a 2.8 because we didn't get the students. Now, the reality is the budget deficit for this year is going to be less than that 2.8. Now, whether it, how much less, we'll know for sure, but we certainly know that it's going to be less. And I think that we, from early preliminary figures, and I don't want to, state speculation, but I think it's going to be, I think we'll all be pleasantly pleased with what we see in the lessening of a budget deficit for this school year. We also know that based on enrollment, and we went back to enrollment figures of 22, 23, jump back 2 years and looked at enrollment figures there and projected those, which pretty much is a flat enrollment growth for the school district for this year. So we feel we're confident that our budget deficit would not be greater than the 1.6 that you see here, and in all likelihood will be will be less, because again, no one organization completely depletes its budgeted funds on any given budget cycle. So I feel optimistic about where we stand.
So you budgeted with 3815. What is our current enrollment to date?
That was going to be one of my superintendent report comments. I'll tell you in advance. It's looking good. We started out this year with right on target with the same amount of student enrollment we had last year, and as of today, we were at 3,746 students. So we have gained 43 students since the first day of school, last Wednesday. And that growth, if we track with a trend analysis that we've currently been doing as a district, then we will see the growth there. If our enrollment numbers are anywhere from 3,775 to what we anticipated are 3,800 plus 15, then we will make our budget, given our emphasis on attendance.
Just recapping, you said 3746 current to date, and we budgeted 3815, so roughly 75 under, and that's roughly 750
At this point in time.
As of today.
revenue.
As of
And
today.
it will
But
still continue
remember,
to grow.
At snapshot
Right,
date
okay.
last year, we were there. In October of last year, we were at 3,811. The previous year, we were at 3,838. So we are tracking as we have done the last 2 years in enrollment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. All right, number 7, recognition and acceptance of donations to Decatur ISD. This is the fun part of things.
Here we go.
The 7A, the first that we're going to look at is the consider and take possible action regarding improving the Decatur ISD Education Foundation donation. And let me just read a real quick thing, and then I would like for the DEF to come up. The Decatur ISD Education Foundation, I put on my glasses again, awarded innovative teaching grants to teachers during the 2024 grant giveaway. Board members approved a total of 31 grants equaling $98,304.43, which I believe was an all-time record. And your check may actually be more than that, right? But that's the number I've got. You can correct me when you get that time. Since its inception in 2003, the foundation has given out more than $800,000 in innovative teaching grants to the teachers and students of Decatur ISD. And those of you that are not familiar with the DEF, it is a volunteer group that is totally separate from the district. They do fundraisers. They do all kinds of things to raise funds in order to give to teachers for innovative programs. So it has nothing to do so much with the district as far as our funds, but it is something that they do on their own, and we're very proud of that group for what they've been able to do. So Monique?
Wonderful, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the board and to the community for your time today. I'm very pleased we do have an update to this evening's recommendation. The Decatur Education Foundation has a slightly higher total and intends to donate $108,765.17.
Yay.
So we're immensely happy about that. And as you mentioned, this total includes funds donated to staff grants, campus activities funds, the Betty's Book programs, and the like. So we're immensely thrilled for that. And I'm obviously brand new, so that is obviously the work of the current foundation. And so I'm just happy to be able to cheerlead them. Yes, I do want to invite them up.
Do you want to get?
Oh, Ms. Walter, are you going to take a photograph for us?
All right, the next donation that we want to recognize tonight is from the Greater Denton Wise County Association of Realtors, the Stuff the Bus, if you've seen that advertised for the last several weeks. It's an incredible effort by that organization to supply school supplies to our kiddos here in Decatur and throughout Wise County. So a little background on them. Amy Henshaw of the Greater Denton and Wise County Association of Realtors hosted Stuff the Bus for all Wise and Denton County schools. School supplies were dropped off at the Central Administration Building and will be delivered to all elementary schools. So Monique, take over.
Yes, I have no further updates. I do not believe we currently have anyone from the association in the room, but we are grateful to them for, am I wrong? Oh, my apologies. Well, do we want to do a photo with Miss Eileen? I think we should.
She's modest, so she's waving us off. So,
We will
but we
allow
do
her-
appreciate it, and please let everyone in the organization know that we very much appreciate their efforts.
We are immensely grateful, and Miss Eileen, I will walk this back.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Monique.
Hey,
Okay.
Stan, do we need to, it says on here recommended motion, do we need to recommend those to approve?
We probably do. You probably.
All
Okay.
right, if that's the case, I recommend we approve the donation for $108,765.17 from the Decatur Education Foundation.
Okay, I've got a motion from Nate. Do I have a second? Second from Sandy. All those in favor, I can't imagine anybody saying nay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Nate, for watching, for catching that. And I don't think we have to make a motion on the other, okay. So now we're moving on to number 8, public forum. We do have a few speakers, so let me read our statement first. Persons desiring to address the board must sign up at the designated time prior to the meeting. Board policy BED addresses public comments and public testimony at board meetings. Audience participation at a board meeting is limited to the public comment portions of the meeting designed for that purpose. At all other times during a board meeting, the audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on matters being considered by the board unless requested by the presenting officer. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes. Our first speaker is Molly Snell. And as you're making your way up here, Molly, like we said, it's 3 minutes. Do you need a 30-second warning or anything to let you know?
I think I can do it.
You think you can? Okay. All right. Well, we will start the 3 minutes when you first start speaking.
Well,
And
you already know my name's Molly Snell. I'm a former educator at DISD. I started out at Carson when first year it opened. Both my daughters graduated from DISD and my son-in-law also. Now, why am I here, right? I'm a Nana, and I got a phone call this afternoon from my grandkids, and you guys heard from them about a month ago, correct? Scout Fernahue and Kai Fernahue came and told you that they wanted to participate in UIL events. Well, they're out of town, so they had a dilemma, and they said, Nana, we can't be there tonight, and we need you to go take a message for us. So I'm here to bring you guys a message. They want to participate in UIL events. They are homeschooled because they have different learning styles. And as an educator, we always want what's best for these kids, right? And they are wonderful kids. And I could stand up here all night and tell you how Scout can play the fiddle by ear because she can't read the music. Or she does watercolors and has her own online website. Or my grandson, who is incredible with his feet with the soccer ball. But they needed to be at home in an environment that they want you to know they want to participate with their friends. They have lived in Decatur ISD all of their lives, loved the school, loved everything about it. They even have Fernie 4 fireworks up on 287 that they have developed over the years from a little bitty shack outside of the business. So please consider saying yes tonight to allow homeschool students to participate in UIL events, because as an educator, every child learns different and they all need opportunities to participate with their friends in the school district. Thank you for your time, and thank you so much for volunteering and having the tenacity to go through an election, okay? There you go. So anyway, I came as a nana, okay? Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you. Next up, Anna Hoy. And I will ask you the same, do you want a 30-second warning or? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Anna Hoy, and I'm a homeschooled sophomore student who lives in Decatur. To start off, I'd like to thank Dr. Rue, board members, and distinguished guests for the opportunity to speak at this meeting and for taking my ideas into consideration. Today, I will be speaking on behalf of homeschooled students participating in extracurricular activities. I'm here to respectfully request that the board allow homeschoolers to participate in district-sponsored interscholastic programs pursuant to HB 547. As a reminder, this law enables school districts to allow non-enrolled students to participate in interscholastic activities. There are 3 reasons why I believe that Decatur ISD should allow non-enrolled students to participate in interscholastic activities. First, I believe that homeschool students can positively contribute to the success of district interscholastic programs in the same way as DHS students. My older brother Caleb had the opportunity to play soccer for our district high school when he lived in Washington State. He was a 3-year varsity starter, all-district player, and helped his team make it to districts all 3 years he was on varsity. The coaches, school, team, and athletic department valued him greatly. Second, it is important to remember that homeschooled families are also taxpayers. My parents have paid their property taxes every year, and they have been diligent in paying their taxes while we have lived in Decatur. As a result, it is only right that we be able to participate in what we are funding. Finally, homeschoolers can give back to the community by promoting unity. I attend church at First Baptist Decatur, where I have many friends, including many girls who are on the DHS soccer team. It brings me joy to hear them tell me that they wish we could be teammates on the DHS team. But at the same time, it brings me great sadness to know that currently this is not possible. As you know, soccer is very much a team sport, and for a team to be successful, every player must contribute. The more united the team, the better the team's outcome. This is the same for a community. For a community to win and prosper, we have to be unified. And allowing all students to participate in interscholastic activities is a terrific way to build unity in our community. It may seem small, but to someone like me who loves soccer, who loves my community, and who loves all my friends at DHS, anything to increase our community's unity is never small. It's a big deal. In summary, I believe that non-enrolled students should have the same opportunity as enrolled students to participate in DHS interscholastic programs for 3 reasons. Non-enrolled students will contribute to DHS's success, their families are paying taxes in our community, and will unify and build up our community. Dr. Rue and board members, I respectfully request that you make this change. It will bring significant benefits and blessings to our community. It will be a win for us all, and you'll be glad you did it. Thank you for your time, attention, and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Alfredo Patino. Do you need a 30-second? Okay, and we'll start whenever you start speaking.
Hello, my name is Alfredo Padron Patino, here again to show support for adding soccer to the middle school. I was once a player in the youth leagues, then I played in the high school, and now, as a parent, I help coach our future Eagles. I wear a coach's shirt today from our local league, but the next few years, I hope that will turn into Decatur Eagle soccer shirts. We owe it to our future Eagles that have a passion for soccer to start this program. Last month, the board mentioned that a potential revenue stream could be achieved through the pay-for-play incentive, a $1,500 incentive per player per activity. Please take advantage of that by adding the soccer program to the middle school. Soccer translates to the students involved by teaching reward for hard work, by scoring a goal, discipline for minor infractions, by getting a yellow card, or a major infraction, they get a red card, which leads to suspension for the rest of the game. This is learned on the field and reflects in the classroom. There's also fair play in soccer. Fair play in soccer is a complex concept that is encompassed by many fundamental values such as respect, friendship, equality, and courage. Respect. Players learn respect to respect opponents, teammates, referees, officials. Once an official makes a decision, that's it. Friendship. The rivalry on the field does not mean players cannot be friends once the game is over. We all, at the end, shake hands and say, good game. Equality. Players will follow all rules and compete equally on and off the field. Courage. Last, courage. I have a little cousin that goes to the middle school now. When he was little, he had to wear a Spider-Man costume under his soccer jersey to play on the field for courage. Now he wears Eagle shirts when playing football, basketball, and track. If soccer is added, he will buy a Spider-Man shirt and wear it under his Decatur Soccer Eagle shirt. I'll end with this. Starting a middle school soccer team can provide significant benefit to the students and the community, despite the challenges and cost. With careful planning, community involvement, and strategic funding, we can overcome any potential obstacle. Please vote to add soccer to the middle school. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 9, the superintendent report.
Thank you. Thank you. It is my pleasure. Oh.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I believe I signed up on the thing back there to speak. Is my name on there?
Did you? That's to sign it, just for the public, for everybody to sign in. This is to sign up to speak. Sorry, we got
Can
a
we not let him
policy.
speak? Can we let him speak? I mean, does it matter?
I mean, if the majority of the board's fine with it, I'm fine to let him speak. Okay, you know what? Look, that seems like everybody's fine with it, so. Just know, though, anyone signing up to speak needs to sign in there just because it's policy. That's it. So we're kind of waiving policy right now.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, and I appreciate the board's generosity in allowing me to speak this evening. My name is C.J. Frazier. I've been blessed to call Decatur, Texas, my home for the past 4 years. In moving to Decatur, there has been one thing that has been impressed upon my mind about this community. This is a special place. I know that you all agree about that. We all can stand in agreement with that. Decatur, I think, is the most incredible place in the world to raise a family. My wife and I have 4 kiddos at home. My wife homeschools them. We do so out of conviction because we believe that's what the Lord has called us to do. However, we love the school system. And in fact, next month, she and I and our oldest child will go on the Decatur prayer walk to pray for every single school that is a part of the school system. That's over a 6-mile walk, by the way, and we enjoy doing that. So please know this evening that it is my desire as a homeschool parent, but also as a friend of others that are represented in this room this evening. It's my desire to see our kids have the same opportunity to be able to participate in extracurricular activities as the kids that are part of the public school system. I know that you all hold the power to make that decision this evening. I would encourage you, though, in light of the things that have already been mentioned, in light of this articulate young lady that expressed, I think, beautifully her desire to participate, in light of other students that have been here to encourage you to allow them to participate, let's take the next step in making Decatur, Texas, an even more special place to raise a family, because all are welcome to participate in the activities of the school. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, now we're Dr. Rue for the superintendent
All right.
report.
Well, as superintendent's report, a couple of things I'd like to share. First, I will say that it has been a true pleasure to be a part of Decatur ISD, to see our first week of school begin, to see the smiles, the happy faces, the photographs everywhere. And I hope for those of you who have time to check the webpage and see photographs, that you'll see that those were captured and that we're quite proud of the great start. I've already mentioned that our enrollment continues to tick up, and we'll anticipate seeing that happen as the year goes on up through our October snapshot date. Athletic season has begun, so please start checking out what your favorite athletic activity might be. We are well into volleyball, football, cross country, tennis. Our football team had a scrimmage this past week. There'll be another one this Thursday right here in Eagle Stadium, starting at 5 o'clock. So we invite you to come join those young men and athletic trainers and supportive students who are out there seeing your students on a rather warm Thursday afternoon. Come join us because it's going to be a good one. I also want to recognize some good news that we received in the last 2 weeks. In the month of August, we've had 2 accolades for our financial department. The first one is literally titled FIRST, Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, and this is something that is thoroughly vetted. It's a system that's been in place several years. The highest that a school district can achieve is 100 points for several years in a row now. Decatur ISD has received all 100 of those points, a superior rating, and we're very proud of that. And we were notified that through the comptroller's office that the district received a Star Transparency Award for debt obligations and how we're handling debt in Decatur ISD. And this is accolades to the district as well, in that the latest bond defeasance, which is a term for beginning to pay off bonds at a little faster clip than you're required to. The district has saved the taxpayers of this district through that bond defeasance $760,000 of interest they will not be paying on that debt. So that's another accolade there. So we're off to a great start. The year has just begun. We have a theme here in Decatur. We are Decatur, one team, one team. We're proud of our kids, and kids come first. We're taking care of them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rue. Item number 10, the consent agenda consists of 10A, the minutes of the July 15, 2024 regular meeting and the July 29, 2024 special meeting. 10B, the certified appraisers for T-test evaluation system, and 10C, the final budget amendment for fiscal year 23-24. Is there any discussion on any of those 3 items or any questions? And if there's not, then we can move to a motion.
Mr. President, I recommend to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, got a motion from Matt. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Delvin. Any discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Number 11, discussion items. 11A, this is to consider the 7th and 8th grade soccer program.
Yes, thank you. And we have 2 coaches here, Coach Snyder and Coach, forgive me,
Coach Cheney.
Oh, I didn't, I apologize. We have 3 coaches here who are prepared to share with you. We do have a PowerPoint. Can we have some assistance in getting your PowerPoint up? Ms. Walther? Ms. Walther, could we give them some, oh, he's getting it. Okay, never mind. All right, I'm getting your PowerPoint up. And this will be a review of the what it would take to start a middle school soccer program. And that's there in the board agenda.
Let's have you, do you say you got it in an email or anything? Okay, let's do this then. Let's have you log into your email real quick. Let me disconnect that for just a moment. Let me go to here. Let's add another account. All right, may I trouble you to log in, please? Don't have access to the board agenda under, let's see, actually, let me try board book. Oh. Okay, do you have it approved? Yes.
Yeah.
I've got it.
Oh, okay.
You got it? Okay. Let me click this back. No thanks. Yes. Always something. All right. Let's add your Gmail.
Jeremy.
All right, yep, go ahead, when you're ready.
All right, Coach Huff asked us to come up with some numbers and start to look into what it would be what it would take to start up a middle school program or a soccer program in the middle school. So Coach Dyer and I did, Coach Snyder, everybody kind of chipped in, and I think this is the information that we came up with, that we decided to go with. Things I guess to consider would be team configurations, what would a startup budget be, and then what type of a competition schedule would be available. And so as far as the budget goes, obviously there's things that could be added, maybe some things that don't need to go on here. It's a budget. Uniforms, if you have 4 teams and about 22 kids per team, with seventh and eighth grade A and B teams, it'd be around $4,200 is what they came up with. For workout gear, practice tops and shorts for 7th and 8th graders, that would be about $2,000. Coaches stipends to assistant coaches, $2,000. I don't know if that's $2,000 per coach, or if it's just $1,000 each.
Yep.
Was how that? Okay, so a total of $2,000 in stipends for 2 coaches. Officials for 6 home matches, that's going to be about $600. And then just some items that you would buy, just some equipment that you might buy for your team. Goalie gloves, $160. Practice cones, $100. Transportation's always a big deal. It's $100 per 6 away games, so it'd be about $100 a game is about what it costs transportation. Obviously, if you have a coach that has a CDL, it's not going to cost quite as much possibly, than it will to pay a driver. I know coaches, we get 50, but I don't know what drivers get. So a roundabout total would be about $9,660 to start up a soccer program, give or take. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be just written in stone, but this gives you an idea.
Coach Chaney, I'm sorry if I missed this. Is this for boys only, or is this girls and boys? Because the number doesn't seem right to me.
Girls and boys, both. Eighth grade, A and B.
So it's combined.
7th and 8th are combined.
So
And then you have an A and a
a
B.
7th grade team and an 8th grade team, or there's to be one soccer team with 7th and 8th grade?
You would have a 7th grade A team, B team, 8th grade A team, B team.
So you got 8.
So if you have boys and girls, that would make 8 teams. So see what they're saying?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So then double it. And I know, I mean, having been at the middle school, I know we would definitely have participation.
There's no guarantee.
But right, that's where I was about to go with that. Right. Not like anything, you could probably grow it, and as we grow, it would grow. But you're right, there's no guarantee you would have an A and a B team.
Well, I just essentially almost double that, that price.
So I'm understanding that you believe you would have not 4 teams, but 8 teams.
If you had A and B team for both grades, boys and girls, then it would be 8 teams.
You could have up to 8 teams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably starting out, we wouldn't, just for numbers purposes, but as you grow as a program, eventually you would add in your B teams. So, Coach Huff just wanted me to start with a very basic, starting point, and then go from there. So that's right.
And they do have competition. I mean, there is a league that they could participate in Thursday and Friday nights. Home matches will be here at Eagle Stadium. Away games, I think Gainesville kind of ran around this, right?
Gainesville's been asking us to join their league for the last 2 years now, and I just kept telling them, hey, we'll try. And Bridgeport is currently already in that league, which is one of our rivals. Mineral Wells, which is actually in our district, they already have a program in place. So, our district opponents already have teams in there. So
It looks like Springtown, Salina, and St. Mary's in Gainesville may also jump in this thing. Competition begins April 4th. So, and that, as far as information, that's the information that I had to present. If there's any questions, Coach Snyder, obviously that's why he's here to answer these questions, but I can answer what I can answer if there are any questions.
So who would actually be coaching? Because we only have on here 2 assistant coaches, so that,
Guaranteed I would be down there helping get it all going. And I would hopefully bring my current 2 assistant coaches from the high school down also. And since our season would technically be over with the high school at this point, there's always our current high school players. They all tell me all the time, they're like, if you guys get this going, we want to go down and we want to help. So, you know, I've got one on the boys' side, the girls' side right now that would help us out. And then, of course, all of our players would be happy to go down and help out, just to get it going. Now, like I said, we could always add coaches later, but for right now, our current staff would be fine.
When I was at Prosper, they added junior high soccer, and the high school coaches, when they were starting the program, they're the ones who coached it. And then as it grew, the money grows, staff grows, then they added full-time positions.
I mean, I told Coach Hutt this, we already have uniforms for them, but he didn't want stuff going back and forth, so he wanted them to have their own gear. And he's also worried about, you know, 7th graders wearing high school age kids stuff, so he said, let's make sure it fits correctly.
Might be big.
So I've already gotten a lot of gear in place, but I also wanted to be the correct fit and size for the kids, so.
That's right.
So if I may, I want to, Mr. Carpenter, you brought this up, yes, sir. You originally had brought this up, and you said that there would be some support, and you, I believe, mentioned. Okay, I can't do that. Sorry.
will practice for soccer, will it, at the middle school be held during school hours, or will it be after school?
You know, I talked to Coach Danny, Coach Dyer about this. I don't want to get in the way of any of their track or anything else that's going on over there at that time. So we're willing to come over after school if we need to. We're willing to come over before school if we need to. However it all works out, we're willing to make it happen, if you will. So if we need to go over before school starts, we'll go over there before. If we need to go over there after, we'll go over there after.
And Coach, when does middle school soccer actually take place, the competitions? What time of year?
I believe it was April the 4th was when they had their first competition or their first match.
Did you want to have one of them, Jeremy?
I think it could be positive. I know from Coach Huff, one of his concerns was he doesn't want, at the middle school level, sports to overlap, because that's a lot for those kids and parents, getting them here, getting theirs at the middle school level, because the kids can't drive. But I think that so I've talked with Coach Snyder, we would be able to figure that out to where it wouldn't. I mean, if they miss a game, but then they're able to play the games after track, just something, we would probably work something out so that it would work for everyone.
We'll never make them cheap.
Right.
We want them to play as many sports as possible. I mean, I would never want one of my soccer kids to not run track. That would be crazy to me. So we always want them to play as much as they
And if given a choice, they will probably not run track, so.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate your giving us the information. This is a discussion item, just so you know, for the audience knows and the board knows. It is not an action item for tonight, but can be put on at a later agenda. But if there is any discussion amongst the board.
I'd like to go ahead and request this to be on next month's agenda as an action item.
Okay. Anything else? All right, then we're going to move on to 11B, a review of legal services provider. Just a second. This is, we obviously contract services through a current law firm. It has been brought up in discussion amongst the board to potentially look at other options or to at least review what we currently have and to see if there is anything, adjustments we need to make to that. And that can take the form of adding a second law firm, replacing a law firm, or keeping the one that we have. So this is an open discussion item for the board, and at this point, I do open discussion on that.
And if I might add.
Sure,
Yeah.
please.
And I'll just simply say that in, you just occasionally to look out and do a 360 about who are the service providers that can best serve the interests of the board. It's something that can be done cyclically every, say, 5 years. You look up and say, okay, are we still satisfied with the services we're receiving, and is this the group that we can continue to work with? So it is a legal service that would help you in making sure that we're complying with all federal, state, and local laws as they are applicable to school systems.
With our TASB membership, we have legal services that come with that, but we don't seem to use those. Is there a reason why we're not using TASB legal services, at least for the board? I understand the district uses for your reasons, but for the board, why are we not referencing TASB legal, and why are we going through Walsh, especially since our budgets are, we're exceeding our budgets over and over and over, year after year, and we have already paid for service. Is there any reasons why we're not using TASB legal services?
Well, I can't speak to past practice. What I can tell you is that TASB Legal Services is of some assistance to school systems, although they do not see themselves as the legal service provider for the district. They are a resource, and I myself on many occasions over the years have called TASB and asked, what does this mean, or information and advice from them. But they do not serve to represent boards within the day-to-day operations of the district.
There seems to be, to me, the board needs some separation from the district's legal services. We need separate legal services, and districts do that. And to use the same legal service for both ends seems almost of a conflict of interest.
Legal service providers are always, regardless of who they are, always see them, that is a relationship that is clearly defined. Legal service providers work for the board. They are obviously working on day-to-day issues within with the leadership of the school system, but they ultimately are responsible with the board. So I think that it's a good thing to step out and look at who the service providers are. Upon occasion, I know that you've used Walsh Gallegos, which is a good firm, for many, many years now. It's always good to see who else is there, and is there another firm that may be a better service. So what I would say today is the process in doing that is a request for qualifications, and the district issues a request for qualifications called an RFQ that states very clearly what the responsibilities and requirements are and what you're looking for in a legal services provider to support the district and support the board. And then that is evaluated through a set of criteria and a rubric that is clearly defined in the RFQ. What will you be looking for, and how will you be looking for that? Then the recommendation comes back to the board with maybe there's 2 firms to use. The firms specialize. Some are very, very solid in construction law or business law, special ed law, personnel law, etc. So I've been in districts where there's been 3 law firms, and they, depending on what you need, you use the firm that has that expertise there. So I hope that offers a little background to you. And the reason it's on discussion as a discussion is because it is, I guess, ascertaining the will of the board. Are you interested in the district issuing an RFQ request for qualifications to determine and evaluate potential legal service providers, law firms to work with the district. And if that is the case, then administration will issue out an RFQ for that purpose and then bring it back to you when that cycle has been completed.
I think it's been a long time since we've done it. I think it probably would be a good idea to just see what's out there, my opinion. Obviously, everybody else gets weigh in.
I think it's important, and I would also like to reach out to TASB and see if their legal services can handle the bulk of our day-to-day needs, because the amount of money we're spending right now, and especially with our budget situation, if we already are paying for a service and we can get legal representation from TASB that we're already paying for, it seems to me it's kind of redundant.
And that RFQ could certainly be sent to TASB for their consideration.
So,
Okay.
Dr. Rue, is there a specific, do we like, with the legal, is there a contract for their services from a certain date to a certain date?
Yes, it can be structured just as so. It can be structured where you might have a 2-year contract with an option to renew every year for several years. I mean, you can set the way you'd like that contract to look.
What do we currently have, do you know?
I think it's an ongoing relationship. I don't think that there's any end date to the current relationship. The current firm is on retainer with the district, and they bill us as they're used.
Essentially, it's evergreen status right now. Okay, I don't think we need to, unless someone's got some objection to doing that, I don't think we even need to do a vote. I think we just do it. So, okay, then we will do that.
Very good, thank you. So administration will then make sure that an RFQ gets created, and we'll move forward.
Okay, great. Moving to item 12, action items. 12A, we need to switch this around, correct? So we're going to actually move 12B up ahead of 12A because we need to approve the budget first before we approve the tax rate. So, Ms. Watson?
You have the budget. Sorry. The hearing one, she just wants me to. Yeah. Perfect. Right there you have the official budget from the hearing. If anybody has any other questions, comments, or anything related to that.
So
And you all
we-
have a budget book in front of you.
We did some generic 10% cuts across some really important items, like, for instance, utilities. What's the action plan to cut 10% of utilities?
Kyle, what's your action plan to cut 10% of the utilities?
And when Mr. Mazik will be here in a little bit, and he'll talk about maintenance and operations review in that program, and I'm sure but you can speak to it now if you'd like to.
I believe there's a local board requirement asking for that 5% reduction. And there is a plan that we do have in place, that we take the low-hanging fruit, which is set points, and we implement utilities, and we implement customer usage, and to try to achieve that goal. And that is something we'll be bringing up further in the agenda.
Do you think we use the 10% as a generic. Is that realistic? Because roughly about 215,000 out of utilities we got to cut for 10%. Is it realistic? That's including fuel, water, all utilities together. Is it realistic?
It's a good question. I think that the view on that is, does the budget set the facility, or does the facility set the budget? And there's always two views on that. Of course, being in operations, I think the facility sets the budget. Being in numbers, it's the budget sets the facility. So we work together to make sure that we do the best we can with the funds allocated to us.
So with that too, Kyle, particularly you speak of fuel and other things, those are so many unknowns throughout the year that if you're looking at a budget, you can't gauge what fuel economies are going to do 3 months from now to where we jump, from $3 to $4.50 again, or depending on how election or some other thing goes. Those are really hard to determine on being able to hit a true number.
It is, but it is possible to reduce that number and to save that 5-10%. I haven't done a full assessment of what we have right now in our energy management plan, but it is possible to do that. I know when I was in Keller ISD, we made 12% in the first year with those policies.
Is there currently, if I'm comparing the current budget versus the proposed, and we're cutting 10% off that line item, pick any line item, we'll use electrical, how much contingency money is in that line item? Is there 10% contingency already in there, built into it, so you're slashing the contingency? Or, I mean, are we spending this year's electrical, and then next year we're gonna cut 10% of that, or is there contingency money built into that line item?
There's a little contingency in that line item. Like I said, like Delvin said, it depends on the winter, it depends on water usage throughout the year.
No, I totally understand the budget process, and I was in construction, and I would use 10% in my line items. Are you using a certain number?
No, I'm not using a certain percentage.
So when the little bit's in there, is it 1% or 20%?
I would have to go back and look, but I
No,
can
there's
get you that number.
you don't have a,
I don't set that number. I mean,
Okay.
we cut it by 10%. We try to get it as close as we can, but no, I don't have 10% in there or anything like that from year to year.
so, okay, so we don't currently have contingency money, so we're gonna currently cut all utilities by 10%. I'm just using this as an example, by 10%, but we're not quite sure how we're gonna get there, but we're gonna hope for the best.
Well, when it comes to the topic of utilities, we can be a little more specific, I think, when Mr. Mezek comes back with his district effectiveness report about where we are at this current point in time. And clearly, for all of us, one of the budget priorities will be to continue to look for efficiencies within the system. And we recognize the limitations and the constraints of operating on the same funding per student that we had in 2019. And we recognize that the district has reduced its budget by 10% across the board, and that we will continue to look for those efficiencies. And I guess at this point, we have budgeted an anticipated amount for utilities. We hope, it's our intention with careful efficiencies to come in under that budget.
Cindy, the only question I have is longevity is included in this,
Yes,
correct?
longevity is included in it.
All right, well, I make a motion to recommend the board adopt the 24-25 budget as presented.
Okay, I've got a motion from Delvin. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second from Matt. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes 6-1. Okay, let's go to the back to 12A. Consider and take possible action to approve the 2024 tax rate resolution.
This is the tax rate that was used in the budget process and that will support the budget that was just approved. The maximum compressed rate with TEA was 0.6192, and then we add the 5 pennies to make the M&O rate 0.6692, and then we're maintaining the same INS rate of 0.2337. So for a total tax rate of 90.29 cents.
Okay, any questions regarding the tax rate?
I recommend to adopt the resolution of Decatur ISD levy the tax rate for the tax rate year 2024. Should it be 24 or 25?
24. It's the tax rate for 24. Tax
Okay,
year 24.
and providing for an effective tax rate.
Hey, Delvin, sorry about that.
Does it have 25
I
in
have to read this, the resolution real quick. And then we'll do the motion. The required publication of a notice of a public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate was made in the Wise County Messenger on August 8, 2024. Earlier tonight, the board held the public hearing on the fiscal year 24-25 budget and proposed tax rate. The budget must be legally adopted before the adoption of the tax rate. The approved budget has been prepared based on a combined tax rate of 0.09029. The proposed fiscal year 24-25 maintenance and operations M&O tax rate is 0.6692, which is a reduction of 0.2428 from the fiscal year 22-23 tax rate. The proposed interest and sinking INS tax rate remains at 0.2337. Now we can do the motion. Okay. All right, I have a motion, I already had a motion from Dovin, so I don't think you have to do it again. I'll save you from that. Anybody got a second? Got a second from Sandy. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes 7-0. All right. Next, 12C, consider and take possible action regarding the foreign exchange waiver. Dr. Wooten.
Yes, good evening. So TEA requires a waiver when we have foreign exchange students in our school district, and this is not a presentation. This is something we have to turn into TEAL, which is the system we use with TEA. But if you look at the cover sheet I gave you, just some of the background information, DISD recognizes that foreign exchange students can bring many benefits to local high schools in Texas, including helping students and faculty learn about new cultures, values, and languages. The district, with our waiver, you can basically accept 3, up to 5. We're accepting 5, and that's based on trend data. So we went back. I spoke with Mr. Lackey just to say, like, what's been the trend the last, 3 years or so. We've never exceeded 5 foreign exchange students, but we went with 5 just to be safe. Basically, these students are placed with a host family, but the big thing to remember here is they have to be with a nationally recognized program as well. That's one of the requirements through TEA. And then with us, as we looked for this and we went with the 5, we did make sure that we kept in consideration just the financial, implications, staffing implications, to make sure we weren't exceeding any of those particular core classes, because when they're coming in as freshmen through seniors, the core classes are pretty much where they're going to be put, per se. And so those classes in particular is what we looked at. And so, like I said, this waiver is required. So I am recommending that you accept the waiver for 5 foreign exchange students.
Any questions for Dr. Wooten?
Do we get funding for exchange students?
You get your WADA because these are host families within the district. I want to make sure I'm not misspeaking. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, do I have a motion?
I move the board approve 2024-2025 foreign exchange student waiver.
Have a motion from Sandy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Nate. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wood. All right, 12D, consider and take possible action regarding homeschool participation, non-enrolled students' participation in UIL activities.
As you heard a presentation on UIL participation, last month's meeting and discussion item from our athletic director, Stephen Huff. You have that there in your board book. We are continuing to review and evaluate. I will say that the current board policy states that a student enrolled in a private school, including a homeschool, shall not be eligible for concurrent enrollment in the district nor for participation in curricular or extracurricular activities except as required by law. And that board policy you adopted in May of 2003. And it's been the practice of Decatur ISD to limit extracurricular participation to enrolled students. Mr. Our last meeting talked about some of the constraints that places on the system and addressed those with you, and I'll just leave it at that for your conversation.
Okay, open this up for discussion or questions.
Did we verify if his funding is per sport?
The funding is per student participation per activity.
And how much was that?
It was
I wasn't here last month, sorry.
$1,500.
Per student, per activity.
And roughly, currently, a student brings in roughly 9,500. I'm not sure, 9,500. And so with this, we don't need to increase teachers. There's really no overhead increase by allowing a student, or a homeschool student, to play sports. But there's an opportunity for revenue. Is that correct? No overhead items could be?
It is. I think that the constraints, that if you remember the conversation last board meeting, was the requirements, the monitoring of student eligibility, the UIL penalties when those things are not met accurately. I think that those were some of the concerns that you heard Coach Huff speak about at the last meeting.
Have there been any examples of of schools that are allowing homeschool participation? Has there been any examples where UIL has come down on them?
I can't speak to that. I don't know. I do know that, over the 1,100 plus school districts in the state of Texas, 35 have opened their doors to non-enrolled students.
I know this is a fairly new program, and I know that there's very little, like you said, there's very few schools that participate. I don't think that should scare us off from leading the pack. We have our school motto that we are Decatur, we are one team. And I think that every child should have the opportunity, if they have a learning disability or if they have other reasons that they're called, that their parents feel that they can provide a better learning environment. Who am I to say? I have special ed kids that, if I ever felt that they needed to be at home with me and I could provide a better learning environment for them, I wouldn't hesitate. And I would hope that school districts would not, hold that against me. I think that we need to be inclusive of these kids, because I know, that we see them in the stands rooting on their, friends from church, and, they want just as much chance to be out there playing with their buddies. I think this is a great opportunity to gather the community together.
Adding to the pros, I think we're going to be asking in the near future for folks to approve bonds, and that's including homeschooled parents. And this is a goodwill opportunity. It's a freebie. It's a revenue source for us, and it's an opportunity to possibly get votes if we have a good project or a good accountability on a project. I imagine we'll increase our voter turnout for a bond.
And this is not just sports, correct? This is theater, this is one-act plays, this is all, so this isn't just sports. I mean, these are opportunities that kids could have that they won't get, in their home. Not every homeschool family has the means to drive their kids to the Metroplex to play soccer on a club team, or to be part of a Casa Mañana, kids, whatever. So I think that we can, I've stated how I feel about it, but I think that we have an opportunity here to enrich the lives of many, many more kids.
Well, I'm very sympathetic to the kids and to everything that's been said before. My biggest concern has been from the beginning is that we are making a decision up here at the board and having the administration to administer this. There's a lot more to this than just, is it money? Yes, we would receive some money, and obviously that would be some revenue source. I don't want to minimize that. I certainly don't want to minimize, what the kids that are homeschooled that want to participate in UIL activities. I mean, if it were as easy as that, just, hey, bring them on, no big deal, I would absolutely support it. My biggest concern has been for our administrators trying to coordinate this. It's difficult enough right now what we're doing with our current kids that are in the schools, then trying to coordinate that with all the multitude of parents, and you get into a lot of gray areas on the no pass, no play. But it's the scheduling that really becomes, to me, is just very difficult. And it's easy for me to sit there and go, oh, yeah, I mean, I heard what you said. I'm very much sympathetic to what you said. If I was a homeschool kid, I would want to be fighting for this too. I understand that. But my concern is the people over here that are our employees now having to take on additional responsibilities and additional duties that is going to complicate their lives when their lives are already very burdensome and complicated. And that's my biggest concern about it.
Yeah, that's my,
Go ahead. Nope, I've already spoken up.
all right, I was going to say that's one of my concerns too, is the accountability factor. I feel like on the academic side, we're playing two different ball games here. If a homeschool kid, to my understanding, wants to be able to play, every 6 weeks they have to pass some sort of test. And so my question is who administers that test? Who is responsible for that test? How do we make sure that they are doing their work within the confines of their home to be able to play? Because it's one thing to have the knowledge to be able to pass the test. It's another thing to put in the work that's required of all of our other students in our school system every 6 weeks to be able to play. And so I feel like the accountability is a big thing for me. I also feel like in the FAQs, you can't play homeschool sports if you play these UIL sports. Well, who's going to monitor that? Who's going to monitor that these kids aren't playing outside sports in a different league? If they do, and they get caught, that's going to be UIL trouble for us, and that's going to put us in predicament where we can't make playoffs or something further down the road. Stan mentioned logistics. We're putting an increased burden on our administrators right now, and it's not just sports showing up to the field house. It's letting kid into band hall. Where do they come in? Who walks them to the band hall? Who lets them leave? It's just an increased amount of workload on our current admin. And so I have some questions about how all that works, and I agree with Stan. I'm very sympathetic to every homeschool child that wants to participate. I would too. I'm just really cautious about opening that door and what that looks like. I've spoken to multiple people who have kids in the system right now that had mentioned to me if this was an option whenever they were in school, that they would do that they would send their kid home to homeschool and let them play in sports. What that does for a district for us is that just decreased our revenue by $10,000 per student. Now, is that going to be 5 kids or 100 kids? I don't know, but the possibility is there. So while we do say it's a potential revenue increaser, on the same time, it could be a revenue decreaser too. So that's my concerns.
I've got concerns, excuse me, about enrollment. I look at UIL oftentimes as a carrot that keeps kids engaged in public schools. And candidly, we can't afford to lose enrollment right now. Every kiddo who walks out the door is $10,000, right? And it's not all about that. Again, I'm sympathetic, but I feel like we need to take care of our kids and try to keep them here.
How many states are doing this now? Is it? Yeah, states.
Other districts, I do know.
No, I know that the majority of the country is doing the Tim Tebow, I think is the one that started all this and really been pushing it, I rather say, and I know the majority of the country is doing this, and I think it's leading's okay. I mean, we don't always have to follow. Being a leader, we're going to lead next year with a 4-day school week. It's okay to be a leader in Decatur, and doing something a little different and outside of your comfort level is okay. The administrative side, we got a lot of policy, and we have to follow it. And this is just another layer of that policy. It's all the unknowns that you speak of is 35 school districts are doing it. So we get best practices from those 35 school districts. It's not reinventing the wheel here. They started it. We get best practices and we move forward.
I have spoken to a lot of other districts, and there's 1,200 that are not doing it, and a lot of them have the exact same concerns that we do, and have looked at this probably a lot more extensively than we have, because we've only been talking about this for about a month. And I'm not here to say this is forever, or that I'm, but I just don't think we're prepared for it right now. Is there any other discussion from any other board member that we've not heard from? Okay, then do we have a motion on the floor?
I would like to make a motion to implement I don't have a motion in front of me as a script, but to implement the House bill policy that allows us to have homeschools be involved with UIL's activities.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor from Scott. Do I have a second? Second. Second from Sandy. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Nay. Motion does not carry 3-4. Do I need to move on to the next one, or do we have to make a motion for okay. Just change the motion. Okay. It didn't change the policy. Okay, so we were going forward with the current policy. 12E, consider and take possible action regarding the concussion oversight team.
Thank you. This is a requirement on an annual basis that the board review approve the members of the concussion oversight team. I will share with you, and you have it here in your board members. Pardon me, I'm having trouble keeping my finger on the button and still manipulating this other one as well. Goodness, I feel like a little challenged person at the moment here. Okay. Oh,
I'm sorry.
thank you, people. Goodness gracious. I am grateful for the red button. Thank you. Okay, so your concussion oversight team has been working with your athletic staff. You have a plethora of data, material, and background about what the concussion oversight team does. The members of this team are Dr. Keith Gill, Troy Chandler of a Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Institute, Brandon Pounds of Decatur ISD, and Alyssa Gorgecki, Decatur ISD. This is the member of your concussion oversight team, and we would like to see those members formally approved by the board.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Rue? Discussion?
I recommend the board approve the concussion oversight team members presented.
I've got a motion from Nate. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Jeremy. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes 7-0. 12F, consider and take possible action regarding class size ratio incentive. Dr. Rue? Or is this going to be Meredith? Okay.
Yes, thank you. And yes, Mrs. Culpepper is coming forward to share with you. This is a suggestion and an opportunity for the board to consider today that would recognize those who have students in the K through 4 classrooms that are past the 22-to-1 ratio. So,
yeah, like Dr. Ruth said, this is just an opportunity to recognize those teachers for their hard work and acknowledge them. We do work to do our best to have that 22-to-1 ratio, but sometimes somebody comes in and there are a few that are over the 22, and we do have in our District of Innovation where it exempts us from that requirement. And so this is an opportunity just to recognize those teachers who may have 23, 24 in a classroom, and what it would be to give the teacher who has that larger class $1,000 per student over the 22-to-1 in pre-K through 4. So this is something, again, just for consideration and discussion there.
I think one of the advantages to consider is that once a class is formed, and of course your DOI takes you out of that 22-to-1 requirement. We do want to look carefully at classes that don't become too large. However, if you've got one student over the ratio or two, this allows the class to stay together without having to split that class up and create a new classroom with those students. It also recognizes the the teachers and the work that they're doing as well. So while we could just continue with the DOI as is and not, talk about that, we thought it might be something worth considering. It's certainly a benefit as far as not having to hire additional staff and finding qualified staff once the school year has begun. But anyway, I'll leave it at that.
So my understanding of the DOI is to hold us accountable for the 22-to-1. So you're telling me that we don't have to do 22-to-1?
Our DOI exempts us from that.
So we can have unlimited?
No.
Or what's the policy say? Because I thought there was a limitation.
It says that once it goes over, I think it's 23, that we start to look for another teacher. And we've posted for all of those positions. But in the meantime, right now it's hard to find teachers. They're all in contracts, and we have kids who come in during the year, and so it may bump us up. And so this just gives that incentive.
And how long can we go over 23 per the DOI?
We don't have that specified as far as how long.
So are we changing our DOI with this, or are we just keeping our DOI like it is and just adding a stipend for when it goes over
Just-
23?
We're keeping it as is and just adding that.
And that's at the board's.
Right, it's just a
At
consideration.
your discretion and your consideration. The DOI is a District of Innovation. That's what that stands for those who might not, in the audience, who might not know that. But the District of Innovation program does allow flexibility for school systems, and this was one of the pieces that it was designed to do, because as districts struggle financially, this is one way to meet the needs of kids. I will say that the class size is always, the smaller the class, we would love that. Research bears out that when class size bears fruit is when it's 15 or less students in that class. Then the small class size has a significant impact. We are watching very carefully. We know right now we have about 7 classrooms that are sitting with 23 students in them in our elementary grades. We have new kids coming in every day. We would hope that they would come in and at the grade level and at the campus where there's 3 spots in that classroom, and it doesn't pump us over the 22-to-1. But we are watching that very carefully.
So the DOI doesn't have any accountability for over 23-to-1, but it has a limitation of 23-to-1. So how are we holding ourselves accountable for that?
Does it have a limitation?
I don't think it has a limitation. It says when it gets to 23-to-1 that we start the process of looking for a teacher, and we have those posted. And we also have long-term subs who have come in and helped out with that as well.
In years past.
So if I'm reading this correct, then there's a 30-day consideration period.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
that 30-day consideration, kind of what does that look like? And then the second part of that is that it looks like they must have the kids for 90 days. So is that 30
Right.
days part of the 90, or is it 120 days?
No, the 30 days would be part of the 90. The 30 days, it gives us some time. We may have to level out some classes, and, kids may move in and out, that kind of thing.
But this
the-
also
it
is
would be
basically
90
to
days.
just incentivize the teacher
Right.
during that meantime while
Yes.
we put out to hire a teacher
Yes.
to adjust for those numbers.
I know Midlothian, I talked to the HR person in Midlothian, and he said it was a game changer for them. He said it really helped the teachers and motivated them a little bit to, because they're working hard, and they get another student in their classroom, it's just a little bonus.
But under this, though, they would have to have the kids for 90 days.
For 90
to be
days.
eligible.
And that's up for discussion. That's just what they did, and I
And how
followed that.
you shape this. Classes come and go. Students enroll and disenroll, et cetera. So it's a matter of longevity there, if you will. Arlington ISD is another district I'm aware of that does this. I'm not aware of that. And we can shape this any way we choose to. And I also will say that we can bring this back for discussion at the next board meeting. We can talk about it. You know, we can make adjustments as necessary if it's something that the board is interested in doing. But I do know that we will have some classes that are 23 to 1, fits within our DOI. It doesn't push us into creating a new classroom, and it helps us on two fronts. It helps us financially, and it helps us in keeping the bond and the strength there in that classroom.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I mean, we all know our teachers are overworked and underpaid, and, I mean, if we keep adding to their plate, I think my issue is the 90 days. And I mean, I know that it can't be, if they're in there for 5 days and then they're out, then, I mean, obviously
Right.
they don't qualify for $1,000 and.
Right.
But I'm gonna be real mad if I'm that teacher and I've got them for 87 days. You know what I mean?
I do.
So,
And those are things that can be adjusted.
I was going to say, we could,
could be a case by case, well, not a.
So I agree with
But you know
Sandy.
what I mean.
My only concern is the 90 days.
Sure.
So I mean, if we do anything, I mean, what if we just split that difference and say, let's do a 45? And let's just, I mean, I don't know what that looks like as far as recruitment and everything of what those timetables look like. But if we were to lower that to a 45-day period, I mean, that's a long time for some teachers to be.
Sure. Right. And right now, just looking at what we had as of Friday evening, not counting in the new students that enrolled, that's about 8 classrooms that would be at 23 or 24 students. So, you know, that's a way to recognize them and acknowledge that while DOI does say we can do that, we recognize what that means to them as well.
I would recommend a 30-day and making sure, I mean, just reiterating that we're not changing our DOI, just because that's a community-based plan, and we're just incentivizing the district to, or the teachers. I'm totally comfortable with that. I think if it's a 30-day consideration and you've considered it, then start funding the incentive.
Okay. So, okay.
any other, yeah, go ahead.
I will say that I do think there needs to be some sustained time so that they're not in for 5 days and gone again. That there is some sustained time to recognize that class enrollment actually exists all that time frame. And if you would like that to be 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, you know, that's totally okay, however that might turn out to be.
Well, as you said, we can adjust this. I mean, so I think we find a reasonable number. You know, to me, 45 seems pretty reasonable. It's half of what we were looking at. But, I mean, that number can be whatever, and we can adjust it later on. We just need to, someone can make a motion, whatever, regarding the number of days, and we can.
If you would like to do that, we can do one of two things. We can adjust the proposal today to be, say, 45 days, however, at the discretion of the board. We can bring it back to you at the next board meeting with adjustments there. But I'm comfortable whichever way the board would like to do it. I think this is a way to recognize our teachers.
Agreed.
Is there any discussion on 5th grade and up on class sizes too?
I second that.
Well, I was looking at the board report you sent out. I mean, 5th grade, some of these classes have 27 kids.
Well, actually,
and I don't know the real
we're
difference
doing-
between a 4th grader and a 5th grader.
Yeah, well, thank you. We are actually doing pretty good there because we used one of our growth units, you know, and we now have opened a 5th grade at Rand Elementary, and we are now looking at all of our 5th grades at all of our elementaries being within acceptable limits. 5th grade has traditionally been around 25 students across the state in 5th grade classrooms.
And we've also hired a full-time aide for them
So-
while we post for the next
So
Yeah, the next
and there's
teacher.
leveling that can be done within classes if we need to. So we really are in good shape in fifth grade across our 4 elementary schools. That they are lower numbers now.
What's our biggest high school classes? Just for
In high school is a moving target.
Yeah.
The
just curious.
yeah.
I mean, I know that.
There will probably be some classes that are closer to 28 to 30 students in a class, depending on the content
Yeah.
area. You know, we were able to easily ascertain where we sat with middle school and elementary. High school has a much different schedule, a much different flow. I know that we used we opened an additional teacher in English language arts at high school, which brought numbers down for classes there. And I've spoken with Mr. Lackey a few times because I've been cautious about that as well. We would love to do so much more. And I would encourage everyone on this board, on the board and within our community, to advocate for public education funding. Because we are existing on funding from 2019 per student. And we all know what has happened to our own electric bills at home since 2019. This is a difficult situation. We need a motion.
I recommend to approve the class size ratio incentive stipend to teachers who qualify, given a 45-day calendar day.
That works.
How do you want to, is that
Okay.
45 calendar days?
Calendar or instructional?
Instructional.
Or instructional,
Let's do that.
45 days.
That works.
All right, I have a motion from Sandy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Delvin? Okay, sorry, couldn't see you down there. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Meredith.
And thank you for your consideration. I know that this will be well received.
Okay, 12G, consider and take possible action regarding extending delegation of hiring authority for contractual personnel to the interim superintendent until November 1st, 2024. Dr. Rue, if you would explain that.
Thank you. As it is now, the board has given the superintendent the authority to hire through the month of August as we look at some positions that we know we will be filling. We've got some long-term subs right now in a few classrooms. We'd like to get teachers in there just as quickly as we can hire them. So without delaying having to bring to the board their names before we can actually get them in front of a classroom, extending that authority for another month or two would get us through this hiring season for this school year. And that's the genesis of this request.
The board delegates this, or we delegated this out this summer, and it's been, since I've been on the board, that's been a trend. But what changes now? Why are we delegating it now? I understand what you just said, but why didn't we do that in the past? And is this normal for you to delegate that far out? That's a long time.
It's somewhat normal for me, for the superintendent to be able to hire teachers and go ahead and get them into classrooms as needs arise. Once the school year has started, there are a few at the beginning of the year that require immediate attention. The caveat would be that we would bring that, without it, we'd be bringing people in once the board has approved their hire. And it has been successful to do that over this past summer. I cannot speak to why you may not have done it previously, and I certainly will, am happy to work with the board's will at whatever you would choose to do.
Yeah, in the past, we delegated out during the summer period because that's the rush, and then it goes back to the board authority. I just that's my standard since I've been on the board.
I think we trust the superintendent, especially someone with this Dr. Rue's experience, to move quickly, because that's the new the new situation we have in public education. It's getting harder and harder to get teachers, and when we find a good one, and we've not had great success also scheduling special meetings where we had everybody here. I don't want to have to schedule a bunch of special meetings, and then we lose out. So I think it's a good thing. I don't see any issues with it.
So will this be the trend as we go forward?
It may be, and obviously, a lot of that's built on trust with existing superintendents. If we trust our superintendent, I don't even, let's face it, how many times have I think we can make it where there are certain positions at the higher administration levels where the board is involved, but how many times have we had lists of teachers, and did we know anybody on that list?
No, I understand that. I understand.
And then we just rubber stamped it.
Well, it's the recommendation, there's the trust level, and then the authority is with the board. So if you erode the authority of the board, then there's consequences of that.
I don't think it's eroding I think it's trusting and delegating to our superintendent, who is our CEO, to make quick decisions to be able to make us the most competitive district we can be. That's my opinion. But weigh in, anyone else?
Well, and I think if it's from a teacher below, then I'm absolutely for it. If it's higher contracts, then I believe it should, at this point in time, come to the board.
And I agree with you.
Yeah,
I have
I agree
no,
too.
absolutely, that's the experience I have.
Yeah, I'm strictly talking about teachers, and that's where I'm concerned that we might lose out. Yeah, higher paid, higher level ones, I think those do need to be reviewed by us. Okay, any other discussion?
Just clarifying, that teachers only.
That would
Are
be,
these going to be certified teachers?
under DOI, yes, let me begin with the caveat of, yes, we want certified teachers in front of our students, and that is the case in this district that we do. There are different levels of certification, if you will, in industry fields as such that their work experience is the qualifier rather than an actual teaching certificate. So there are some nuances to what you just said.
Sure, I understand. I know that the certified teachers are obviously hard to come by, and it's expensive, and I think it's extremely important as well.
Oh,
Since
I want it.
we're really
Absolutely.
concerned about accountability on our grades, all that is going to go hand in hand.
I recommend to approve to extend the hiring authority for contractual personnel to the interim superintendent to November 1st, 2024.
Second?
I have a motion from Delvin and a second from Matt. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Roux. Number 13, district efficiency reports and information. The first is the 13A, Decatur ISD 23-24 District Improvement Plan Summary. Dr. Wooten.
Yes, thank you so much. So in your board book, you should have seen multiple glorious pages of Plan for Learning. That was our district improvement plan. That goes in detail, and when you look through all of that, you'll see the plan that has like the notes, and so everything is in there from all of our checkpoints, November and February, then again through each of those months, and you can see all the notes to that. I am not going to go through all of that line by line because you guys can read that and you could ask any questions. I am happy to answer those. Instead, what I'm going to give you is the highlights. Now, some of these highlights are not necessarily new. You obviously are very familiar with the strategic plan balanced scorecard. You are going to see this often this year because this is what we are basing, obviously, our goals and objectives on that also intertwine with our core values. I'm just going to hit the highlights primarily for the academics. And so as we move forward, there are multiple goals in there that just go anywhere from some of the assessments that we've done with obviously STAR, but also some of the ISEP in first and second grade, and then just Circle PM and Text Kia. You have a lot of these different assessments. And so I just put them together on one slide so you could see it. So it would be a little bit easier. As you can see on this slide, You have some goals. If you look at it, for instance, pre-K, and this is not apples to apples. So this was last year's pre-K, and then this year where we fell's pre-K. And so if we just look at the very first line, you see EOY for 2023 was 85%. Our goal we wanted was 90%. And then our actual was about 80%. And so I do want to stress that if you look down at a lot of these goals, you're hitting 85 and 90% because ultimately what we want is 85% or higher. That's what our kiddos deserve. That's going to be our goal. So moving forward, I'm not looking at changing those too much because that is the goal that we should have. We might tweak a little bit here and there, but you know, ultimately that's what we want. And so this is kind of just combining all of that together. You're going to see that in some cases we met the goal, in some cases we did not, in some cases we stayed the same, and in others we did go up, but it wasn't necessarily at the level of the goal that we had set. And so what that tells me, what that tells us as a district is what our focus is going to be is on Tier 1 instruction.
Explain Tier 1.
Yes. And so, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about kind of like professional learning and things of that nature that we're going to go through. But we are going to be driving hard the Tier 1 instruction. And what I mean by that is, does our curriculum align to what is written, taught, and tested? And so are we really understanding what it is that we are asking our kids to do? What are we willing to accept? And we've had a lot of discussions on that. We're going to continue a lot of those discussions. We've already started some of the professional learning in August, in looking at the TEKS, dissecting the TEKS and going, okay, this is what is being asked. This is what we expect of our kiddos, and this is what it should look like. And one of the things that we'll be working on, which I anticipate is going to be ongoing more than just this year, is really identifying some of those exemplars of what does a student response, what should it look like for a TEK to be mastered at a minimum meets. And so we're going to be working through some of those things. We're going to be using some outside sources for some of that that I'll get into in just a little bit with the professional learning plan. And so looking ahead, you've seen the data before with end of the year, but what you haven't seen is kind of like some of the next steps that we're looking at. So next steps in the beginning, obviously we're looking at the Tier 1 instruction, and we're looking at best practices and what do we expect from our students and what will we accept from our students. And that's going to be something that is frequently discussed throughout this school year. But we also made some very intentional adjustments when it comes to middle school and some of the intervention at high school as well that I did want to touch upon. So, you know, obviously you sit there and you look at things and you're going, okay, we cannot continue to do the same things that we've done. And so I've sat down and talked with Mr. Lackey, I've sat down and talked with Randy Schisler on, okay, let's look at some of those kiddos and let's look at the kiddos that are not, maybe didn't pass 7th grade math, maybe didn't pass some of those things. Like what are we doing with those kiddos? Because there's still those gaps. And so some of the adjustments that we've done this year is in particular with math, because of some of the areas that had some of the lower scores, is if they did fail a math course, then one of their electives is not going to be an elective anymore. They're going to go back and they're going to repeat that course so we can start filling those gaps. And that's going to be something different and that I'll be monitoring very closely to see how that, how the end game works out. But I only see it helping and not hurting, quite frankly, because we've got to fill them somewhere. Otherwise, they get to high school, and then you have your Algebra 1 scenario. And we've all seen how that's turned out. Intervention at middle and high school are going to be very intentional. And so as we look at accelerated instruction, we're going to be that 30 minutes of intervention, as you can see in here. We're going to be looking at TEKS that they did not perform well on, and we're going to start really honing in on those in order to fill the gaps moving forward, and that's going to be during Eagle time. At the high school, same thing, intentional days targeted during Eagle time for the remediation aspect of things. why I broke it down between juniors and seniors and freshmen and sophomores, because it does look a little bit different in timing. So Edgenuity is one resource that we're going to use, Lemon Education is another, and then obviously just great teachers that are at that high school know exactly what those kiddos need, and so we're looking at that as well. But for the remediation for juniors and seniors, we're going to hone in specifically in October and November, working with those kiddos. Why? Because in December is the retest. And so the more concentrated it gets, I think the higher our chances are of those kiddos really moving forward with what they need. Also at freshmen and sophomore, that's broken down as well. October and November will still be a big focus, but Eagle Time in general will be working across the board with those kiddos. But reading and math is obviously going to be a very big focus at the secondary level.
So Dr. Wooten, just real quick on Eagle Time, right here.
Sorry.
Typically, I know with Eagle Time, that's kind of a standalone study time. How are we going to be able to target specifically those kids with specific teachers?
So the Brandy and Lyle and the counselors have been wonderful in really targeting those kiddos that need it the most to be in those with those particular teachers for what they're working on. In the past, what we've done is we've used IXL. That is no longer because we need to look at what was effective and what wasn't effective, and that the kids just got bored with it. And so I think it's a great tool. I just think for us it was kind of used a little too much, and we need to get back to the basics, and that's what we're going to work on specifically. Now, there's not enough teachers in the world for all of the reading, but it's way more intentional for the kiddos that we know that we can probably make a huge difference with. And then with the others, just those teachers with that expertise working with the other teachers that may not have the same expertise, but very talented nonetheless. And so the other thing too, I just wanted to point out is just our breakdown with our ACT, SAT, PSAT, and TSIA2. One of the big goals that we put, and we're going to continue with this, is working and bringing that test to our kiddos. You'll notice 669. We made that a little less optional for our kiddos so that they got the experience with the test. It's great for like community college. In getting that as a qualifier as opposed to SAT or PSAT. And I just think we're reaching a lot more kids this way. All of those assessments go back to our accountability rating. And so it will contribute positively towards that. What that looks like exactly, I don't quite know. And then industry-based certifications, you can see where we've raised the number of IBCs that the kiddos have taken. But what you'll also notice is it is great that they have taken those IBCs, but we also want them to earn the credit for it. And so that's been a big focus. That is something we've already started in August when CTE teachers met and just kind of coming up and brainstorming ideas of like, okay, what are our checkpoints? How are we also going to work with those kiddos, whether it's in a garage for our auto tech or if it's health science, how are we really making sure that we're meeting those checkpoints as well? Because it does look a little different with the CTE courses, but they're setting up criteria now to make sure that we're much better equipped, and the kiddos are much better equipped to take those IBCs beforehand. And then, of course, these are just the course offerings that are there, and this is relevant because one of the other areas that we are working towards is offering a career explorations class at the middle school. So part of our accountability rating goes to completers. So that means kiddos that are taking CTE courses, taking industry-based certification, but they're completing all the prerequisites and then getting it all to that completer status. And so sometimes we lose some of those kiddos because they may have thought the class was going to be a little bit different than it was. For instance, web design might sound very, very cool, and then they get into it and realize maybe they're not as techie as they thought. And so with the career explorations, it's going to give them almost a menu of options and a sampling of all the different course offerings and what it really specifically is. And so we're hoping by doing that in the middle school, by the time they get to the high school, then they have a much better idea, and we're going to get more longevity, more of those completers sticking around. Longevity. This is our AP. So one of the other big things that have changed is that you could take an AP course, but you are not required to take an AP exam. Well, for most people, if you're taking an AP class, it's pretty much a guarantee that you should be taking the AP exam to go along with it. They're like a married couple. Here we haven't really put that into place, and that is one of the other changes that's going to happen this year, is that if they are taking their AP courses, any of those courses, then the AP exam is one that will follow, that they will have to take. And so that is part of the reason why you see that your numbers are so low. Now, the course offerings, we're still kind of seeing where the dust settles with that to see what all we have, because with our budget and just kind of looking at things, if there's only 7 people that might want to take a AP physics course, that course might not make, because we need a little bit more than that. Not necessarily 27, but more than that. And so some of this might fluctuate, but that's going to be something that we monitor throughout the school year as well. And that will be part of the district plan for the upcoming school year. And I think I talked about all of those things already. Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Oh, and the PD, sorry, I lied. So the PD calendar too, one of the focuses with the professional learning is just really on that tier 1 instruction. So we're going to be bringing in Lead Forward, which we'll be talking to principals about tomorrow, and some other expertise that we're trying to get scheduled. So the first part is pretty solidified, but the second part is not, and that is intentional, because depending upon how the first semester goes, we're going to be tweaking and revising and so forth to really make this meeting the needs of our campus administrators and teachers. Now I'm finished.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, 13B, Maintenance and Operations. Mr. Mazak, if you'll step to the podium, please, sir.
Yes, and we thank him for being able to present to you after 1 month on the job, sharing the current status of all of the departments under under his watch.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, and good evening, Dr. Rue, President Schultz, Board of Trustees. Thank you for letting me come tonight and to present to you the Operations and Maintenance District Efficiency Report. And I won't keep you too long. This is good, interesting stuff. Just real quickly, I wanted to look at our work orders, our future projects, our capital improvements, our work in progress, transportation, and safety. So between, just in the last month, our maintenance department has accomplished around 181 work orders that they've accomplished. They've accomplished around 2,600 for the whole 23-24 school year. Some of the notable things that they accomplished was the new McCarroll Middle School field scoreboard installation, also the installation of the new lockers at the Decatur High School Ag Building Boys locker room, and also our custodial department has been cleaning and preparing all year to get the buildings ready, make sure that they are clean and ready for all of our kiddos. Some of the future projects that we're looking at in maintenance is the removal of dead and problematic shrubs and trees throughout the district. Stakeholder, one thing I'm excited about is stakeholder involvement in the implementation of our new computerized maintenance management system. CMMS, switching over from School Dude to a better system called FMX that we can track our assets, costs, team performance, operations, and all of those things, even our trend lines to see where we're headed. We're going to be doing some playground mulching installation, and we have a LED lighting upgrade at Decatur High School Band Hall and both gym floors. Capital improvements, when I first got here, I was given a task that, hey, we have a elevator that we need to put up at Dragon, sorry, you can tell I'm from Carroll. And I practiced this not to say that, sorry. I'm actually from here. I live about 5 minutes down the road.
But you worked there. We hired you from there. There you go.
Eagle Stadium, go Eagles.
Go Eagles.
Good save. That's the kiss of death right there.
Kiss of death.
And I was asked to look into this, and so I looked into this, and it looked like we already had a bid. We did an RFQ and an RFP and all of that, and we have a bid that came up around $587,000 for the elevator. And so we hired Brett with Corrigan Architects to look at this and say, hey, what can we do instead of spending this right now? And so he came up with 3 plans that we're looking at. And the first one is called the disproportionality variance, meaning that if your ADA requirement is 20% higher than your remodel, you can ask for a variance and you won't have to do the elevator. We may not get that one. The second one is the square foot reduction, which means if we bring the square foot of the press box under 500 square feet, we can pass our res inspection and then everything's good. We wouldn't need an elevator. The third one is a good faith extension, which is the most promising one, that if Brett is putting a letter together with TDLR that says, in good faith, you guys will put an elevator in there on your next bond, we'll extend this for another year. And that's the one we're looking at right now, instead of forking over the $587,000 right now. So in summary, there was 2,600 work orders last year. We have 16 maintenance employees in operations, custodial, and grounds, and they logged over 29,000 work hours logged between those departments, getting a lot of work done. Just wanted to touch quickly on the transportation. Also, they've been doing a great job. They've been onboarding new students and providing parents with updated bus routes and times. As of 8/12, there were over 1,200 bus registers. Last year's daily average was around 840 students is what our daily average was. The buses are operational, tires are good according to the assessment that I looked at. All the buses, except 2 ACs on the buses, are operational. I believe it is our blue fleet. The activity buses, they're still having trouble with getting those ACs put together. We have a lot of miles that we drive that I've seen on these buses. 20-something thousand on our route buses, 10,000 on our extracurricular summer school field trip buses, 1,900 miles on our CTE buses, 8,000 on our SPED buses. So we have a lot of miles that we put on these buses. Our bus fleet, from my assessment that I looked at, are all from 2016 on our routes, and they all are around 100,000 to 110,000 miles. It's 150,000 miles when you really need to look at replacing those. And so I would say they were in fair condition. Not great, not poor, but they're in fair condition. But they do definitely need some PM work and possible replacement in the near future. Transportation, there's a few things we're looking at. We're looking at streamlining our bus routes to reduce the times that students spend on buses. We're finding out that some of the kiddos just are on there a little too long. So we're looking at this on 4 different fronts. We're developing a proactive plan to achieve this goal, and that's something that Virginia and I have been working with in the last 3 weeks. And safety and security, we have successfully conducted some training sessions with our Defenders programs at the Ag and the shop building. We are continue to do that. Also, we replaced the receiver at the NRS tower right out of town here, and so that the bus radios are all repaired and functioning. I even went to transportation on the first day, met every driver as they came in and said, hey, good to meet you. How's your radio working? And they all said it's working too good because some of them ladies just like to talk on the radio now. So the radios are working well, and I'm glad for that because it is a safety issue. We want to make sure our drivers can contact in case of emergency dispatch. We also conducted and will continue to conduct safety and security meetings and drills. Also, just a few notable features on safety and security. The fencing at McCarroll Middle School is completed. We did 2 punch-through walkthroughs with that and got it fixed. We've updated our emergency operating procedure, our EOP, and we are assisting principals and staff in assigning SPAT badges, which we have over 600 of those heavy little badges you guys carry around, our employees carry around. We have about 600 of those in the district. And that's all I had. If you have any questions.
On the, I know obviously that's a lot just coming in so quickly. Have you had a chance to work with Brett at all on the long-range planning? And does he have all the pieces he needs from you, or is there some outstanding data he needs from your side of it?
Yes, we've had meetings with Brett concerning the long-range planning and the elevator, and we have meetings scheduled in the future with him to go over that.
Is there anything that he's needing that we need to help him out with? Or is he moving forward on that? Because I don't know where we're at exactly. Obviously, we're having another meeting with Brett, but I'm just, because there may have been a gap there with him, because obviously a lot of the data comes from your department for that planning. Is there anything that he says that he's needing that he's outstanding?
He didn't say there was anything outstanding. I believe our next meeting was on September 11th.
Well, actually, we're meeting with him next week.
Next week, and then follow up after September 11th. Yeah,
Perfect. Well, I'll find out more then. Thank you.
And Corrigan's a good company. I worked with them before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Very thorough.
Appreciate you jumping in.
You learned a lot.
Trial by fire. All
That's
right. Move 13C, financial information. Mrs. Watson, if you come back, please. Thank you.
You have in front of you the financials for July. Revenue, we're sitting at 89%. Right now, you want to be right around 91%. Partly is due to the SHARS revenue that we are in an appeal for, and then the state revenue, which we know is going to be down just for the enrollment. On expenditure-wise, you're sitting right at 87%, which is about 3% little over 3% under where you're expected to be at this time, at the end of July. So right now you're showing a loss of $1.2 million at the end of July, which you still have, August payroll, all of August expenditures, and the accrual to be put in there. So revenue-wise, the detail on the revenue, we're at 95% on what we budgeted for the revenue, but that is partly due to the $100,000 exemption and the decrease in the overall for the frozen levy on that. And then as far as delinquent taxes, you're sitting at 320, which is above the 250 what we budgeted for. You see there on several of those, there's only a couple of them that we aren't at least at 100% or more. Interest, again, we've had a great year for interest. We're sitting at 154% on interest. So, and so on state revenue, you're at 73%, and then again on the SHARS, you're just at 17%, unfortunately. But we are in the appeal on that. I don't know that the appeal will get completed before August, so that revenue may be pushed off to next fiscal year. I don't know that the appeal will get finalized by then. On food service, right now you're sitting at a little bit of a loss, $16,000, which you realize we are in the plan of getting that decreased anyway, and so we're right on target for that. And then on debt service, it shows that you have an $8 million profit at the end of July, but the defeasance happened in August, and then on August 15th, we made all the bond payments. So that comes down significantly for the August expenditures. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. I move to 14, adjournment at 8:20. We are adjourned.
There you go. Good job, ladies and gentlemen.